There was a time if you said you purchased a Chinese watch that a lot of people would treat that like a punchline. Well, my friends, those days are behind us and you get the last laugh. Today, we're going to prove it. Hey, there you are, and welcome to My Dude Watch. My name is Jason, and today we got something special for you, and you do not want to miss it. This is going to be fun. You know the deal. Grab a snack, pull up a chair, and let's talk watches. And we're just about ready to get going, but first, I got something really cool for you guys. We are giving away an awesome Seagull 6075 dress watch to one lucky viewer, and we made it easy peasy to get entered. All you got to do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and comment Seagull down below. That's it, you're entered, and we wish every one of you the best of luck. All right, guys, let's get into today's video, but keep in mind, this is not a ranking, and it's not yet another AliExpress video. What I want to show you today are 11 Chinese watch brands. Now, some of them you already know, no question about that, and there's a few maybe you've never heard of that are really changing what Chinese watchmaking looks like. And another thing, we're going to keep this reasonably affordable because you don't need to spend thousands of dollars in order to enjoy an incredibly well-built Chinese watch. And I can't think of a better place to start than right here with Feebas. Now, Feebas is one of those brands that immediately starts tearing down that old stereotype. These aren't watches trying to fool you into thinking you've bought something a little bit different. Feebas has developed its own look. They've got bold original designs, some absolutely killer lume, really solid construction, and watches that just feel like they were built to be worn. Look at watches like the Leviathan, the Eagle Ray, or the Wavemaster. They don't feel like watches where you have to say, well, it's pretty good for a Chinese watch. No, these are simply just good, period. With Feebas, you're getting original designs, exceptional lume, tank-like construction, and probably, and most importantly, they've earned a pretty darn good reputation by consistently putting out great watches. Now let's talk about a brand a lot of you guys may not know, Athlosign. I've actually featured a couple of their watches here on the channel several months back, and I'll make sure I'll leave those links in the description just in case you want to go there and check them out. But Aethelson is one of those brands that actually helped convince me that this video needed to be made. Because once you get outside of the handful of the usual Chinese suspects that everyone always thinks about, you start finding some really interesting brands, and Aethelson is one of them. They lean into these clean, modern designs. You get sharp-looking, solid cases, really attractive dials, and honestly, a level of refinement that I think would surprise a whole lot of people. And what I mean by that is they're just good-looking watches. And another thing I like about them is they're not just copying somebody else's homework. They're trying to develop their own identity, and if Chinese watchmaking is going to completely move beyond some of the old stereotypes, that's exactly what needs to happen here. Next up is Agelocer, and this is where things start getting really interesting mechanically. These guys aren't trying to win you over just with a nice looking dial or nice case. These guys are doing some pretty ambitious things. You'll find layered dials, unusual layouts, open worked watches, different complications, and all kinds of things that just a few years ago most people would never associate with affordable Chinese watches. And again, here's the big word, originality. Because if your idea of Chinese watches are still nothing but copies and homages, take a deep look at Agelocer and see what they're doing. You may not love every design. I don't love every design, but you've got to give them credit. They're trying things, and that's important. All right, here's one I'm betting a lot of you guys have never heard of, Huasuo. Huasuo is producing watches with these beautiful textured lacquer dials and traditional Chinese decorative techniques, and visually, man, check these out. Some of these watches are just gorgeous. You've got rich greens, deep reds, all kinds of texture and depth to the dial. And what I really like is that they don't look like they're pretending to be someone else. They're not trying to pretend to be Swiss. They're not trying to pretend they're being German. They're not trying to fool anyone. They look Chinese and they celebrate Chinese craftsmanship. And I think that's a really big deal because Chinese watch brands aren't just getting better. They're making better watches. And personally, I'd like to see more of that. All right, now let's talk about one that everybody watching this video already knows, San Martin. And yes, I know we can have the homage conversation if that's what you want to do. I know some of you won't buy an homage watch, and that's okay. I acknowledge San Martin built a pretty big chunk of its reputation making watches that were very clearly inspired by famous designs. And that's no secret. And if that's the only way you see San Martin, you're missing what this brand has become, because the finishing of these watches can be excellent. The bracelets are good, they have great clasps, especially on some of the newer models. They are truly some of the best you're going to find anywhere around this price range. And more, San Martin is putting out original designs, with many of them standing clearly on their own. To me, that evolution is important. San Martin started out proving that China could manufacture a really darn good watch for the money, and now they're proving they can design one too, and that's a big step. All right, guys, we are moving right along, and up next is a brand that allows us to shift gears just a little bit. This is Shanghai Watch Company. And let me address this. One of the biggest misconceptions I hear is that Chinese watchmaking somehow started with AliExpress. It didn't. Shanghai has a real history, and I mean real watchmaking history. This is not some company that popped up on the internet 5 years ago. They've been around for decades, and today they're blending that heritage with watches that are still attainable for regular collectors like me and you. You've got vintage-inspired watches, dress pieces, interesting dials. There's a lot more depth here than many people think in the Western world. And here's the thing. If you really want to understand where Chinese watchmaking is going, I think you need to understand a little bit about where it came from. Shanghai is a big part of that story. Next up, I'm combining two names into one spot. We're talking about Sujis and Seastern. And the easiest way I can explain these two is almost like two intertwining personalities living under the same roof. Sujis gives you more of that dressy, mechanical, adventurous side. You've got chronographs, moon phases, complications, and watches with some serious visual drama. Seestern leans more towards divers, sport watches, and rugged everyday pieces. And between the two of them, you really start to see just how much Chinese watchmaking can pack into a watch without charging you a fortune. They've got interesting movements, good construction, strong designs, and a boatload of value. There's really good reasons why these brands have developed such a strong following. And then there's this guy, Baltany. Now, Baltany doesn't need some wild complication. They don't need some crazy futuristic case. They don't need to throw the entire kitchen sink at you. Baltany keeps the main thing the main thing. You know what Baltany is really good at? Refinement. And that is their main thing. You get vintage proportions, clean dials, excellent crystals, and you'll notice there's restraint to a lot of Baltany watches. That makes them feel more mature than plenty of watches in its price range, and I think sometimes we forget that. A watch brand doesn't have to always give you more complications, more colors, more specs, more goodness. Sometimes you win by getting the little things right, and Baltany gets a whole lot of those things right. And now we get to one of the most important names in this whole conversation, Seagull. And guys, it's important to understand something about Seagull. They're not just another Chinese watch company. They're part of the foundation of Chinese watchmaking. A lot of watch enthusiasts know the name because of the famous 1963 chronograph. And yeah, that's probably the watch most people associate with Seagull. But Seagull is a whole lot bigger than one watch. They do outstanding dress watches, beautiful chronographs, sweet complications, and yes, movements. They've been building real watchmaking experience for decades. So anytime somebody talks about Chinese watches like this is some kind of new experiment, they just showed up because AliExpress became popular, that's not the case at all. Seagull is a pretty good reminder that the story goes a whole lot further back than that. Next up is Fiyta. And Fiyta shows us another completely different side of Chinese watchmaking. This doesn't really feel like a little enthusiast micro brand. It feels like a fully developed watch company. They've got a broad catalog, polished designs, and wearable everyday watches. They're not just trying to scream at you with some outrageous spec sheet. They're not trying to create controversy. They're just making watches for people who want a good-looking, well-designed watch on the wrist. And you know what? Oftentimes that's enough. Actually, sometimes that shows maturity. You stop trying hard to really prove yourself. You just make good watches. And finally, we are here with CIGA Design, and this might be the perfect brand to finish this list with. Because if there's one criticism we've heard over and over again about Chinese watches, it's this: they don't have original designs. Well, if you take a look at CIGA Design, that argument gets a little bit harder to defend. You've got skeletonized layouts, architectural cases, unconventional shapes, watches where the mechanics are right there front and center, and frankly, watches that look like absolutely nothing else in your watch box. Now, is CIGA for everybody? No, absolutely not. Some of their designs are pretty wild, to be honest, but that's kind of the point. CIGA Design isn't trying to hide where it came from. They're not trying to intimidate anybody. They're trying to create watches that you can actually look across the room and say, yeah, that's a CIGA Design right there. And that, guys, that's evolution as well. All right, guys, now before we finish this list up, there's a few brands we intentionally left off of this list. Now, there are other brands that are really impressive. I'll show some of those now. We're talking beautiful finishing, original designs, and in some cases, genuine high-end watchmaking. But I wanted this particular video to stay focused mostly on watches that are reasonably affordable. Because once we start getting into several thousands of dollars, I think we're having a whole different conversation. So those brands didn't make the official 11. But if your budget goes a little further and you really want to see just how high the ceiling has gotten, those are absolutely brands you should go check out. So the final question, are Chinese watches perfect? No, of course not. You can still go out there and find a boatload of copycat designs. There are still quality control issues here and there. There are still brands with poor customer service. There's questionable marketing. There are absolutely Chinese watches out there that I wouldn't recommend to you. The phrase Chinese watch can't be used as a punchline anymore. Not when you've got original designs, traditional craftsmanship, serious complications, impressive finishing, real watchmaking history, and some of the best value you're going to find anywhere in the watch industry. Hey, you made it to the end of another video. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed what you saw today, please take the time to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It'll only take you a second, but it really does help. All right, guys, we checked the time and it is time to wrap it up, so we will close the show. My name is Jason with My Dude Watch. We'll do it all again next time, but wait, don't forget, dudes can't be late.